There we are. We are now live. Hello, everyone. This is Brad with Paintball Therapy, we're calling it. And I'd like to welcome Tim and Russell, who are from GOG, Luxe, Tampa Bay, ICC, all of the above, and that's how it is. What I would like to do is start basically at the beginning, and we can start with you, Tim, and then you can follow up, Russ. Tim, will you please share with me how you got involved with paintball?
Yeah, sure. I got started kind of how every other kid pretty much gets started. I was 14, went out to someone's birthday party and played in someone's backyard. Shot a couple people with my what was the brass eagle gun? The Stingray.
Okay.
Yeah, the Stingray, and kind of got hooked after that. Made it more casual. Played around with my buddies in the backyard a little bit, and then started going to commercial fields. And then I ended up moving from Georgia to Detroit. And in Detroit, the tournament scene was pretty big, right? You had Detroit Fusion, Tippmann Effect, a couple other MPPL quality teams there at the fields every weekend. And I saw the tournament side of paintball, and I got kind of connected with Caesar and the Tippmann Effect guys, and kind of just said that's where I want to aspire to be, traveling around the world. Came up through the ranks with some amateur teams, Tippmann Effect. We won the IO in 02. And then 10-man ended, which at the time was kind of a bummer. And they started the NXL, and Fusion and Lockout merged. And Fusion didn't have a lot of guys that were probably built for the X-Ball format. And I was more or less neighbors with all the guys. And I was playing paintball with Jason Trozen every other day, who was on Fusion at the time. And 6 of us went and merged with 6 of the Lockout guys, and we made Detroit Thunder. And then we sucked. We were really awful. And Crossman spent a ton of money on us, and they pulled our sponsorship and gave it to Strange. And thankfully, I had a couple good practices against the Philadelphia Americans. I wore Adam out pretty good, even though they're a much better team. They needed somebody to kind of come in eventually and be a follow-up for whenever Adam was eventually going to retire, because he was on the way to having his second kid. And the business was booming, right? Smart Parts at the time was really on the up and up, and the Ion was about to get launched. And I ended up winning a World Cup, thankfully, with Adam and Todd and Frank and Spesh. And then all those guys slowly somewhat retired. We rebuilt the team. I ended up moving to Pittsburgh to work at Smart Parts. They were building a retail facility, which is inevitably how I met Russell. And we built a retail site, store, huge indoor, 50,000 square foot indoor field, outdoor field. We actually hosted a PSP in 08 there. And then long story short, unfortunately, Smart Parts kind of went under, went back to school, thought I was done with paintball, still played professionally at the time, ended up going back to work for Adam again. And long story short, here I am. I don't know how many years later, year number 21 of playing paintball.
And 22. You wouldn't change a moment.
No, it's been fantastic. I mean, I think everything, I'm probably in a unique situation where I feel I've gotten more out of paintball than I put in. Not just from an effort level, but not even referring to finances, but in regards to saying, when I was a kid, you wanted to travel around the world.
Right.
I wanted to play pro. I wanted to be in the upper echelon. I saw Rabakov running his own tournaments. I wanted to work at the manufacturers and accomplished more or less everything I kind of set out. So when I was 14 and 15 years old, and it's been a good ride.
Russ, off to you.
Unfortunately, my career has not been quite as storied. I don't have 18 years pro.
Yeah.
But I started playing in high school. It was the first group of people that I clicked with. I did I did martial arts and stuff. I didn't do a whole lot of team sports growing up. So for paintball, it was the first team sport that made a lot of sense for me. I got along with the people. I really appreciated the type of person that was drawn to paintball, that alpha male mentality that kind of drew me in. I played amateur for a long time.
Which team?
I played on Bucktown Bandits, a bunch of teams nobody's heard of. And then I was fortunate once I worked at All-American Paintball Park, I got to play with the All-American Heroes, which was kind of the feeder team that Tim and Spesh had set up at the time. And actually where Sam Monbell and Chad George came out of the same program. Obviously much better players than myself, but they came out of the same program, so that's how I kind of got brought into this whole thing and became one of the guys instead of just the guy running the field. And then I ran All American Paintball Park. I did the day-to-day operations for about 5 years. When Smart Parts went under, I went out of the industry and worked in logistics. Then came back in the industry, worked at a paintball field, Steeltown Paintball in Pittsburgh, and then worked for PunishersPB.com for a short period, and found my home probably 6 years now, 5 years now, back with GOG and being essentially a marketing coordinator, a brand coordinator for Shocker, Luxe, and GOG. And, it's one of those things where paintball is my life, so this is what I do. I'm really fortunate that I met Tim when I did, and we've made some really cool stuff together. We've gotten to do, obviously, ICC, the one everybody knows about now, but we've literally, like you said, built All-American Paintball Park in the past, side by side, so we've had a really cool kind of joint trajectory in this.
Right. And that goes right into the next topic, which is the ICC. What is the state of the union on that?
I would normally say we're fantastic until this coronavirus came and screwed everything up. We're still a long ways away. I actually had some teams reach out to me and said, what's the plan? And we're still, over 4 months away.
A lot can happen.
Yeah. So for me to make some level of analysis on that, that's tough. I mean, we'll as we get towards July, I'll have a better feeling. But the event itself is on the up and up. I mean, we sold out in 4 minutes? I mean, just 4 minutes, right? I mean, 72 entries. We actually had 100 teams sign up, and we had to refund almost 30 teams. We only have 4 or 5 more spots left in the 5-man. And when we sell out, which I fully expect us to do, we'll have 120 teams. So we're the largest independent paintball tournament for the largest non-NXL tournament in the entire world, which is pretty crazy because we started with a budget of $400.
Right.
So yeah, we're good.
It's definitely a fantastic event, and many people have been there and they're flocking to it in record numbers. So it's a great thing. Is there anything new or that you're able to share with people of adjustments that you're doing this year, field changes or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we'll always adapt the fields in some ways, right? Whether it's moving something here, moving something there. And I've gone back and forth with it. And I mean, Russell can surely attest to it. I mean, we sit there and we talk every day about things we can do. I contemplated making it larger and opening it to more teams or building a 5th field or coming up with some other options. But, for me personally, we always like to deliver a good product. We've been very fortunate to say, hey, we put our heart and souls into it. And, the Monday afterwards, I look back and say, hey, we ran a great event. Last year is crazy, right? 72 teams is I mean, that's like the old MPPLs, right? And we run them in 2 days instead of 3. So we're cutting everything by minutes, literally, like, I'm counting seconds as I'm walking through. So for us to make another expansion this year, I don't feel yet confident enough. We're still working through some bugs, improving some infrastructure. So this year we'll more or less be the same, hopefully high quality product we've always produced. Just continue to polish the little bit of rough edges we have. Heading into the 5th year, assuming year 4 is run without a hitch. Hopefully we're all corona free, everyone's happy, the sun's out, and people are enjoying themselves. Heading into year 5, then I'll reevaluate that, and Russ and I will sit down and have some discussions. But year 4, 2020, I just want to make sure everybody has another good time. And especially because we have, I'm still kind of running some numbers and when people haven't filled out their rosters, but I think we'll have a little bit over 30%, closer to 40% of new attendees, which is our goal, right? I mean, I want to say we let the top 27 teams re-sign back up, which we had 26 out of 27 teams come back, which is great from the top 27. But we want to keep people coming into the system, right? Getting an influx of new blood that then go back to Oregon and Minnesota and Texas, California, and say, hey, mechanical classic paintball is something that we want to grow in our region. Exactly. So as much as I want to say, hey, I want to bring all 1,000 people back from year after year after year, it's better to constantly make it this somewhat of a race so that we get new blood in.
Yeah, and to touch on Tim's point, I mean, the biggest thing about this is the range of appeal, right? So we've had the big names, and we've had local teams, and that's the breadth of interest. And that kind of touches on what we were talking about beforehand as far as state of the union. The thing that people need to realize, and like you and I talked about briefly there, Brad, was that paintball wasn't in bad shape prior to coronavirus. And assuming people stay interested, each player is doing their part about getting their buddies excited and maintaining that interest in going. I think paintball will come out the other side just as excited. Those people that were, geared up to play ICC in August, they're still going to get, if we make it to August without an issue, there's no reason to be any less excited. And I think that's the thing that to take away is that there still is that light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know if it's a train yet, but there still is that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to look forward to things and give people, something to look forward to. And that's the ICC is a great product that everybody can get behind and everybody that's there is excited. That goes into another topic of conversation. When I was there last year, I saw a lot of out of industry support, local breweries and businesses. Do you see that expanding this year? Did they have a successful time? It looked successful to me.
Yeah.
The beer guy was successful. The local brewery was very happy to be there. Our good friend Chris Remley, we call him Football Dad. He's one of our coordinators. He was able to hook us up with a contact at the local brewery, and they had an excellent time. And I know Tim's. We've had a couple other businesses talk to us about coming out. Anytime you get 1,000+ people in one location for any good reason, local businesses are interested.
They pay attention.
Exactly, and whether it's a local tournament or a national, the NXL. As promoters, being able to make that connection is huge. So we're always looking for new partners, but the guys that were involved last year definitely coming back.
Right. Absolutely. Anything on that topic from you, Tim?
No, I mean, Russell hit the nail on the head. I mean, we're Pittsburgh guys, so we take a lot of pride in our city and our community, and we just kind of want to share that with more people. It's a shame we only have 2 days, really, I guess 3 days to do it, because I wish we could take people out to local restaurants and bars and see the South Side and the Strip District, but we really don't have that time. So, we're pretty proactive to call the local businesses, work with the local hotels, and expose them to paintball, and just make sure the city's aware of what we're doing. And they're super supportive. The community is super supportive. All the surrounding neighbors, the stores, the restaurants are aware of the Iron City, and it's something everyone looks forward to, which is pretty cool.
I mean, last year, the story we didn't even think of, but stopping on the way into the field in the morning, there's a gas station on the way in, and the lady working the counter was flabbergasted because she had sold out all of her ice, all of her Gatorade, and dozens of other food items, and she had no clue what was going on. And Tim and I actually ran into her. I think it was 3 a.m. or something on the first day of the tournament. She goes, "What is going on?" And our tournament had literally sold out her entire mini mart.
Right.
And it wasn't something that Tim and I had thought of, but when you run 1,000 people past the last little store on the right-hand side, oh, we got to get ice. Oh, we got to get water. Oh, so they had one of the best weekends they've ever had because our tournament was right down the road.
Right. Just wait. There's more coming. There's more coming. For
Pretty
sure. Tim, another side note, you were in Vegas. What can you give us your opinion of the event?
It kind of breaks my heart because Vegas was the best non-World Cup NXL event I've ever been to. It was unbelievable, well attended. I mean, I think they pushed 250+ teams. The weather was great. The event was great. Tom crushed it. The industry was on the up and up. I'm going to segue that to another comment, but NXL is doing an amazing job. Vegas was one of their best events, so I'm somewhat bummed out with this situation. I'm glad that they did delay the event. They had to. I'm hoping that everybody that's watching this, everybody that loves paintball, that plays paintball, will come out of the woodwork whenever this breaks. Because internally as an industry, obviously people are getting concerned, right? We have local fields reaching out to us saying, "What's the future? What's the state of the industry?" And it depends on the players. It depends on the fields. Hopefully, everybody says, "You know what? Let's let's pick up the pieces. Let's come out hungrier than ever, and let's keep pushing. And I hope this doesn't deter anybody from playing paintball.
Right. Right. I think it's a message that needs to be loud and clear, and people are paying attention. People that I talk to say, let's keep it exciting. Let's talk about it. And since we're stuck in the house, that's really all that we can do right now is talk about it. And I think that it's a positive, a positive outlook. Russell, do you want to add anything to that?
Fortunately, I work the Luxe booth at the NXL events, so I got to meet with a lot of the customers in Vegas. And just to mirror Tim's thoughts, I mean, we talk with a lot of divisional players, and Vegas is always really well laid out, but they generally had a great time. It was kind of a relief after so many challenging events last year with weather, with Texas and Philly and Chicago and all that rain. So just get the first event of the season off with great weather, really well organized. Tom always does a great job with the logistics of Vegas. It flows really well. So all in all, I was really thrilled with how Vegas went. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with what was going on ahead of time. If we can keep the excitement up through this intermission, we'll call it an season intermission. We'll keep going from there. I think the other thing to remember too is that not all national teams play all 4 events. So to see the season cut down to 3 or 2 events is not an unusual season for a Division 4 or Division 3 or Division 5 team. So while it hurts people like Tim, and it hurts Division 1 guys and Division 2 guys that are in there grinding all season, a lot of the body count that goes to an NXL, this is not new. They miss 2 events every year on purpose. So the fact that COVID has got in there and messed things up, I don't think it's irrevocably damaged the industry, because when you think about it, the scale is still there. People are still going to those 2 NXL events.
Yep. It makes sense. Where were you supposed to be this weekend, Tim? I thought I saw you post it somewhere where you said, I'm supposed to be here, and it's got to be driving you crazy, because from a paintball perspective, you constantly travel.
Yeah, I should be in Spain right now for the NXL Europe, and I'm sure Russell knows because his office is 2 offices down from mine. I was on the phone for like a week straight. I had to cancel between the staff and my own maybe 15, 16 flights. We should have been in Taiwan last week. There's a big tournament in Taipei called the Formosa Open. Then I was supposed to go straight to Spain. We should be the NXL Europe right now. There should also be the WCPPL, and there's so much paintball that should be happening. So, yeah, I mean, for me, it's a bit of a bummer just because I'm not used to being home. I usually fly like 200,000 miles, give or take a year. But it's been good. I mean, it's been allowed me to kind of reset a little bit and get refocused on the rest of the year. I'll be honest, it sucks. Like I wasn't fully prepared for it. I don't even own a couch because I'm not home at all, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you even stop enough to benefit from a couch?
No, I haven't had a couch in like a year. I leave bags like back and forth. Yeah. It looks like no one lives in my house because I spend so much time at the airport, in hotels, and I come home, I check into the office, I kind of sort things usually on a Tuesday through Thursday, and I'm back on a flight Friday, come back Monday night, and just constantly shuffling. But that's what I like to do.
Well, we have a few comments here that I'll share with you. Matt.
Yep.
Commented on it. Yep. Yep, absolutely. And it is amazing as an old schooler for sure. It brings people back. And then, of course, Turtle has to chime in and give his 2 cents with building a Mounds Field. And we did discuss that as well. And anything's on the table for the growth of it. You just want to grow it the right way. And
yeah, I mean, the facility has some limitations too, right? I mean, anybody that then Turtle was thankfully at the first one. Urban Assault, back when I'm sure you were there for the old MPPLs too. Urban Assault used to be approximately 4 times the size of what it is now.
Right.
And Pittsburgh is booming, right? We have numerous Fortune 500 companies downtown, property skyrocketing, and the Turnpike decided to come through, and they acquired some of the property that used to be Urban Assault, and it chopped what could have been more playing fields down. So we have limited space to work with. And Phil Thompson, who owns Urban Assault, is one of my favorite guys in paintball, one of the best field operators, truly loves the game. And he's done such a phenomenal job and takes so much pride with his facility. But unfortunately, there is somewhat of a field size limitation. So building another Mounds Field is tough. And those are Mounds Fields are so amazing. And Pittsburgh is known for Mounds Field, but they're one of the most expensive to build, right? Because if we get lucky, like in the situation that happened, where you have the entire state basically coming and building a turnpike, they have leftover dirt. You can build up a Mounds Field, right?
Right.
When they're done and everything's paved, now you have to acquire a ton more dirt and pile it up, and it takes a lot. And Phil put a lot of good work into it. But I don't foresee us in the short term, primarily by us, I mean Phil, building a second Mounds Field. If anything, we were contemplating building another Woods Field. There's property to build a second Woods Field, which is ultimately probably what we want to have.
Now, on another program that I had, there was discussion about Woods Ball. Kevin's having the Woods Ball Classic, or the Woods Ball World Cup in New York relatively soon, within the next month or two. He says that he's going to keep it going even with all of this, even if it's just a small local event. But we were talking about Woods Ball fields. Now, I know that you've played on a Woods Ball field large enough that you can't see the other side of the field, so it adds a different dimension to it. When we were discussing the ICC, to me, it seemed like a perfect blend of all three formats, or, something that makes Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania special, the Mounds Fields, because it's synonymous with the Mounds Fields, but the flavor of the Woods Ball, and then add in the Hyperball field, which is great. I feel that old and new players alike like it. Do you hear anything wishing that it would be slightly different one way or another, like airball? I mean,
Yeah,
I think a small percentage say, hey, get an airball field, but that's not the direction.
I mean, let me answer this first, and I'll let Russell kind of follow it up.
Please.
And so part of our and more props to Kevin, because we played the Woods Ball World Cup in New York. Me and Russell played with the All-Americans for the first or 2 seasons we played with them, or 2 events we played with them. And that was part of the biggest inspiration to say, hey, let's run the Iron City. And then the Fight Club guys is mechanical, and we combined it all together. But with that being said, the Iron City Classic was never said to be it's a Woods Ball only tournament. It's a Hyper Ball only tournament, right? Yep. We started the Iron City Classic because we saw this whole opening to say that people want to play 10-man, they want to play with mech, they want to play a little bit of everything. And the one thing that Russell and I are really good about doing is we're really good about marketing and selling, right? If Brad, you made a widget and you said this widget does this thing, I guarantee that me and Russell will come up with the graphics, we'll make the phone calls, he'll make the images, I'll make the phone calls, we'll sell it, we'll distribute it, you'll be rich. Yep. Promise you that.
Yep.
However,
I need a widget.
Make the widget, call me up, and I got a team for you. So that we had a widget, right? We have this widget, and it's 10-man mechanical paintball. And I personally would probably prefer more 75% of the games to be in the woods, right? But that wasn't the growth avenue that I felt was needed for us. And I appreciate your input, because that actually means a lot to me. That's our goal. Our goal is to provide a little bit of everything, right? For every person that says we want more in the woods, I got the same amount that say we want to play more on the Hyperball, right?
Yes.
And we run one event. Maybe one day we'll have more, but we have one, and that one is like a buffet. Like the best buffet in the world is the Wynn buffet. It's great, right? You go there, you get a crab, you get a quiche, you get a little bit, and that's what it is. It's a little bit of all the things you like, right? You literally play 2 games on each field, on all these different fields, and it gives you a little sampler. So that I hope that Kevin goes back and says, I like the Woods Ball, I want to run my Woods tournament, or that the Fight Club guys say, I like the Hyperball, I want to run the Hyperball tournament. And as long as they're growing the whole concept, that's awesome. That's the whole purpose, right?
Absolutely.
Yep. We just want to be a little bit of everything, and then take that a little bit of everything and make it great.
And do it the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Russell?
Well, one of the fortunate things that Tim and I have is access to people. So between Tim, myself, and just our history in paintball, just to be able to reach out and have an afternoon where we can take, Spess Robinson and go walk an airball or go walk a woods ball field, or take Ryan Moorhead and go and walk another field and get feedback from people of that level. It's just been very fortunate that we have these people. And then you have the hard workers and the grinders like Phil at Urban who executes on the idea. It's not easy to say, hey, you need to cut down 6 trees and make 6 bunkers somewhere over here and make it balanced. That's a big ask of anybody, but the fact that we have the people to put the input, filtering it through a lens and then executing has been really our success in it. And as Tim said, the variety, right? One of my cherished things about ICC is the fact that no one's ever comfortable. There's no field where people go, oh, this is where I play every weekend. No, if the best guy on the field may never have played at that type of bunker before. When you think about the level of player that could be out there, I mean, we watched a game between one of the local teams and Dynasty on the Hyperpipe last year, and 90 seconds into it, the local team was up by 3 bodies.
Right.
And you just go, wait, what?
Right. It's so exciting to be able to see things like that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where if this was an X-ball field and an airball field, 90 seconds in, the game would be over.
Right.
But because of everyone's even level of unfamiliarity, everybody's even level of required adaptation, it really does make it another facet to the game and makes it more engaging on that level as well. So, I mean, that's one of the things I like about the woods ball fields, or even this type of paintball in general, is it's not any specific type of field, but the field you're playing on is engaging. Whether it be hyperpipe, whether it be woods, whether it be mounds, your attention is not elsewhere. There's not a chance for it to let up, if that makes any sense. There's something there for everyone to keep you interested. If you like, just the firefights, well, you're going to be happier on mounds or hyperball. If you like crawling through 20 feet of dirt to pop up behind somebody, you're going to find it on the woods field. There's something engaging about everything, about each field for each type of person, I think.
Yes, I would agree. Now, another topic of conversation is I saw you both at the ICPL in Florida. Russell, you were there with the tech booth, I'm assuming, and Tim, you were playing with Cap. Tell me a little bit about your Cap experience, because I know that you know all the guys on Cap, and I was talking with Rodney on a different episode, but I'd like to get your opinion on it.
I had some of the most fun times playing that event in Florida, right? I mean, we were winning games, we're scouting games, we're playing, we're out of the bar all night. It's all the 10-man stuff that I want it to be. And it was a bummer we didn't win. That kind of sucked. But in 10-man, crazy things happen. The Cap thing is it's pretty cool because it's Dave Baines. And Dave called me up, and he was with Roy Richards, right? And him and Dave kind of took over Cap whenever the Dynasty guys went on. Chris Hagan called them, and they rebuilt it. And they said, hey, we want to kind of get back some of the squad, and we want to kind of get some of the guys we've all played with. And I played with Dave on Impact. And we kind of said, hey, any of the guys that are our buddies that we know that don't really have 10-man teams are committed to, let's all get together and have a fun weekend and, go out there and just do what we can. And we played last year's Chicago event, and we stunk. We had we had arguably like the who's who of top end pros.
I got to tell you a story, because that's when I first started filming at the ICPL, and I was doing interviews in the beginning of it. And I would say, because people were saying just that very thing, I'd say, okay, make your prediction. Who's going to win? There were 2 answers. One, the one that was on their chest. We're going to win. Right. And then if you're not going to win, who do you think's going to win? and it was inevitably Cap because your team was absolutely stacked.
Yeah. It was crazy. We had Colt Roberts, we had Mouse, we have Ryan Moorhead, we have Nick Laval, and we missed a cut. We stunk. Yeah, we did so many things wrong. We didn't walk the fields properly. We didn't scout games.
But is that exciting to you in some capacity because you're so competitive? I know you're so competitive where it's just like we can't do this. We got to make changes.
Like as we missed a cut, right? Me and Dave were talking and we said we got to change it, right? And I couldn't go to. Unfortunately, Ryan clogged up our lives and got married the same week in the ICPL, so we had to all miss the last one in Florida in October last year. And they've kind of filled it in, and they built a team, and they did really well. And then this year, Roy's awesome. He's the man. Like him and Dave are the driving force behind the whole thing. And they said, let's do it and do it right. And so let's bring in Rodney, right? And
yep.
Sometimes I want to choke Rodney, right? He's so OCD, right? You know Rodney forever, right? Like you want to just like, ugh. There's a reason why this guy has always been around winning teams. And
right.
And after going to Florida for the first ICPL in January, I'm like, fuck, this guy is the guy that more so than that guy that runs the snake on the break, more so than the guy that runs through the middle. You need this guy that he's out there like a nerd with his little book flipped open, counting steps and scouting games. And he took all the talent that we had, the Jacob Edwards, the Chad Bouziers, the Dave Baines, all these guys. And he said, okay, shut up. You're going to go over there. Shut up. You're going to go over there. We need to kill this many guys. We need to do this. Shit, okay. And he structured us, organized us, and we didn't actually lose any games. Like Rodney and Jason Edwards didn't get shot the whole tournament. Right. And so more power to him. And it's been fun, right? I mean, I wish that we actually had time to build the team and maybe practice once in a blue moon.
Right.
But for what it is, man, it's a blast. And then it's fun to finally enjoy the classic experience in the way that I remembered it being when I was a kid.
We have a question from a guy local to me who owns a paintball field in Annandale Paintball. JT asks, what dimension do you guys feel is the right size for a hyperball field and an airball field? Is the NXL the wrong size? That's a few topics right there, but feel free to touch on anything that you feel.
I'll let Russ jump in on this one.
Well, I mean, I think Tim's probably got the dimensions actually written down, knowing him. But
yes.
Yeah. Do you feel that there's a right size and a wrong size?
I don't think there's a right size or a wrong size for this type of format. Just going back to what I was saying, it's more important that the field be engaging than any particular fixed size when you're playing the classic format, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Rodney, Spesh, a number of the other guys would like to see it go more towards a standardized thing. I'm kind of adverse to that because I believe that kind of the allure is the variance. You have a very different plan for a smaller field versus a larger field. You're going to deploy people differently. You're going to shoot differently. You're going to communicate differently. So I feel the physical size of a field, at least in the classic format, is somewhat elastic. That being said, Tim knows our field lengths, I'm sure.
Right. And to even just build on what Russell was saying, Tim, few have more NXL in previous field and previous league experience. Do you like the size of the current NXL field?
Yeah, I do. So to answer JT's question, it just depends on what you're trying to do. For what the NXL is doing, I think it's the right size, right? I mean, there's a lot of other factors, not only just from a playing perspective. I feel it's probably about right. I mean, maybe you could be 10 feet longer, but in 2012, they tried being 20 feet longer and didn't really change anything. So I think 150 by 120, which is what the NXL field is fair. But it also allows people to build facilities in smaller spaces. So for what the NXL is trying to do in regards to create standardization, I think it's phenomenal. I think it's great. The size is ideal. As Russell said, in regards to classic paintball, in regards to what I am somewhat hoping that maybe becomes a larger marketplace and everybody can set up. No, there's no right and wrong size because, back when I started playing, there was no right size. Like I remember going to play 3-man tournaments in Detroit and it's like 20 feet there and 40 feet there and some barrels and spools, and you're good to go. And then you go play this woods field that's 500 feet long.
Right. Exactly. You never.
What was the 3-man format that was like in a tube, Ultimate Air or something like
Yeah,
that?
UAPL. I think it was. Yeah.
There's the Ultimate Madness tournament they used to do in West Virginia, and then they put it on TV out in Vegas. And it had to have been maybe 50 feet wide by 70 feet long. Like you're like on top of the guy,
right?
And it was different, right? It was something different. You just adapted.
Even something that weird worked for what they were trying to do. They were trying to get fast-paced, rapid, short games.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by like even in airball, I don't think there's a wrong size. To Tim's point, it's your objective.
Yeah. So I mean, with that being said, I don't think that. I think in the perfect paintball world, which will never exist, right? But in the perfect tournament style world, we have the NXL X-Ball Race 2 format that is standardized, that is, as Maddie Marshall says, the distilled Formula One version that is the creme de la creme of athletes, the Chad Georges and the Konstantin Fedorovs that drink water all day and eat lean chicken. And then there's the game where I eat steak and drink wine and beer and every day and I'm okay. And then I'll play till I'm 100, right?
Right.
And that's the competitive classic side that fills the rest of the void. And to me, that needs to have variety. Different fields, different sizes, different terrain, different bunkers, right? I used to love looking through the old paint magazines, right? And you see out in Vegas or out in Reno, they used to play out like on the sand dunes with tires and stuff.
Right.
And you go to Dallas and it was like these hills, right, that were just mud and rock.
I was just on the phone with a Malacheski, and he was telling me about a tournament in Vegas, and I'll let him tell the story. But they played the sand. You know what I mean? Like moving, they saw that it would create sand clouds, and they used that as an advantage. I mean, the old guys have it all on lock. Wherever you threw them, but that was it.
And we just need both of those, and that's how you grow, and that's how you reach all target demographics. So to think that one format's better than the other or one that's inferior to the other is crazy. We just need both to grow.
Right, absolutely, and there's more room to grow at what we were doing, and that's again touching on kind of like what Kevin was doing an exclusive woods ball format, and I was talking with Marcus, or we were talking with Marcus over in England, and that's what he prefers. He prefers a solid woods ball experience. And there was that big discussion: is it big enough to support two different sections? Well, it is, but again, it boils down to the quality of the experience that you have. And at the ICC and also at the Woods Ball World Cup, I hear all great things. So it's only going to grow at that point.
Well, the key is inclusiveness, right? So one of the big things with the classic format, as Tim and I rolled it out initially at the ICC with MAC 5.5, it wasn't about just the equipment. It was about including everybody. So if you had an older marker, you can jump right in. If you had a new marker, set it to 5.5, you could jump right in. If you've never played woods, you're fine. If you've ever played it, the idea is inclusivity, right?
Correct.
And when you expand your roster out to 10 players, or in most 10-mans carry 12 or 13, again, you're including more people.
And more. Yep.
And so having the variety of the fields, not just being woods ball, being hyperpipe, being mounds, there's nothing really prohibiting airball from being involved, but the variety is what breeds inclusion. And inclusion is what determines growth. So while one person may have one preference for this or that, or they want to relive the glory days, what it comes down to is the variety of the format and the size of the roster determine inclusion. People can play. Oh, you don't love that? Guess what? So sit out the hyperpipe field. We only play it twice. You're going to play all the woods fields. That type of thing. I think that's what's more important. The overarching value is the fact that whatever you're trying to do in paintball needs to be including as many people as possible. And I think that's why the ICC has been successful. I think that's why anybody who's tried any new format in paintball if they are successful, it's because of the breadth of inclusion they're looking for. They're trying to get as many people involved as possible.
Tim, do you have anything to add to that topic?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the whole focus of the Iron City is, right? I mean, every day we have to sell paintball guns, right? We work for Shocker, Luxe, GOG Freak, right? Every day you have to say, okay, how can we sell more things, right? And it's reaching all these various demographics, right? And you look all these ages in these countries and these income levels, and you say, okay, how can we get more people shoveled into here? And we took kind of that same knowledge and said, okay, so you look at what we're currently doing in tournament paintball, right? And it's this. How can we get it to be this and this? And not that this is less valuable, but how do we just have outlets for these other people so then they buy more guns or they're playing more paintball? And so I think it's probably follow up to your statement with Kevin and all the Predators guys with Marcus and I agree. Like if they want to have tournaments in the woods and they want to run only woods tournaments, I hope they do because I love them. I love the woods tournaments. So they should run them and they should run high quality events and people will play those.
Absolutely.
If people want to run airball tournaments only, they should run them and people will play those, right? And the customers will determine what's successful and not.
It goes back to that quality of experience. If
right,
you have
exactly.
quality experience, it's going to grow and you get the value and everything. Now, to switch on to another subject that's kind of a hot button issue for some of the guys, but I have a different take, is the gun speed. Now they're coming with bang switches and hair valves. And this is I'll give you my take, and then I want to hear both of your sides on it. I'm fortunate enough to be old enough that in the late 80s, I saw a VHS cassette with Tim the Sandman Glavin shooting a stock automag 13 balls a second. Okay? 13 balls a second. Crazy fast. He could shoot it. That's in the beginning. Now, the adrenaline, Shockers, top of the line, great product, fantastic. People are grumbling, they're going too fast. 13 balls a second. Now, if we just go 13 balls now is the same as 13 balls, 20 years ago. Really, there's that perception that speed's killing it, but I don't see it. If somebody wants to fan the trigger and do whatever, there's other ways where it just doesn't translate. Can I get both of your opinions on this whole, is it too fast and is speed going to kill the mech movement?
That's a simple one. No. It comes down to the simple fact that people don't like change. You look at back when paintball started, it was 12 grams. The last time the sky was falling was, oh no, switching it to constant air means that people are going to be able to shoot too many paintballs. Oh, going from cigar tubes to hoppers mean people are going to shoot too many paintballs. Going from acrylic paint to vegetable paint means no one's going to see my hits. Change is automatically what people are adverse to. The thing I point out to players more often than not is that shooting quickly is a skill. Mm-hmm. An extension of that, shooting quickly accurate is even a more finite skill. Shooting quickly, accurately, while doing anything that involves physical movement is what made you good at paintball. The people that were amazing at running and shooting with a truly mechanical gun, that was a skill. So while I say the rate of fire is not going to affect the gameplay, I mean it because there are so very few people that can produce 13 balls a second, for one. And then even less of those people who can direct that accurately. And then even less of those people that can do anything while doing both of the two first things. That I think you get caught up in the appeal of showing off for your buddies in the staging area or on Facebook. But when it comes down to actually affecting gameplay, it doesn't.
I would agree. Tim, do you have a opinion on this matter?
Yeah, I mean, so I watched the arms race, and I just started working at Smart Parts when the arms race got out of control in the original NXL.
Right.
But it was electronic guns. It was like we're retooling halos and putting harder gears, right, more spring tension, and saying how fast can we cycle the bolts, right? And we're getting 35 plus balls a second. And it was this incredible arms race that, piqued our industry in regards to hard good sales. And that probably got to be a little too chaotic. I mean, there was a time when I was on Philly Americans and Miami Effect came out, and the NXL in 04 was contemplating unlimited rate of fire. Mm-hmm. So Mike Ratko, who was a commissioner at the time, flew out to Pittsburgh. I watched this kid on Nikki Vegas, who plays with Adrenaline now, bunkered this kid on Miami Effect. He jumped over, pulled the trigger once, right? And I don't know, 15 balls came out and he shot him in the head and the kid fell over. And Ratko goes, nah, this is done, right? We're going to settle on 15 balls a second full auto. That seems like a good resolution. Right. And that arms race was out of control.
Yep. And
for what it's worth, we did forecast, right? So when we started the Iron City, we said, hey, the guns are an important part, right? Hardware is incredibly important, right? We love Evolution autocockers. We love RT automags. We need to find a place for everybody to exist in them. And as Russell said, that, that's part of the fun of it. So with that being said, we said, okay, I lined up all the guns in the back, right? In the back of our office. And I said, okay, random people, come shoot these. At what point would you shoot the mech gun over the electronic gun, right? And it was about 6.5 balls a second. They said, okay, now I will shoot the electronic gun over the mech gun. And that's just what it is, right? You get the benefit of the eyes. So that's inevitably how we settled on 5.5, give or take. And then,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then all of a sudden, someone came out with this switch that was a great design, and more power to them, that hit the actuator on the solenoid. So every Parker solenoid or Humphrey solenoid has a test pilot on it, right? And he made this switch that went on the bottom that you just kind of hit this little switch that basically served as a micro switch to hit that. I'm like, well, shit. Technically, that is mech, and more power to him. Kudos. That was a great design. I mean, internally people have discussed that too. I'm sure there's some really smart people. And so I said, this is going to be a problem. So I am not an engineer. I don't know the difference between this O-ring and that O-ring and operating pressure. I barely even clean my own gun. I'm the worst at it. So I know thankfully I'm friends with some really intelligent people, right? Jack Woods at Planet, Hans Semmelsberger at Luxe, Simon Stevens from Inception, right? And I reached out to all of these guys and I said, how would you control this in the long run? And they said, just control the size of the trigger and the trigger guard, right? Doesn't matter what we make, right? You can only shoot so fast. And if you can shoot fast with that, then more power to you. You truly earn that, right?
Yep.
And so when I see the bank switch and I see James and the Adrenaline stuff, and I love that. I love that people are pushing that level of ingenuity and technology. That's what will make the industry grow, because people like that. You want to go faster and faster and faster. Great. Just work within the limitations that we've provided that are a certain very specific size on the trigger guards, right? And we'll see what happens. And if after that it gets out of control, if all of a sudden someone makes this thing that's so amazing, they're shooting 50 balls a second with no eyes, right? More again, right? Then we'll reevaluate it. But I think we've hedged all the different options with what we currently have in place.
Yeah, limiting it to the modern mechs to single trigger, and that's only for modern mechs, to be clear. Mm-hmm. So when I say modern mech, I'm referring to anything that does not trip a secondary mechanical device to fire the mechanism. So double trigger auto mags are fine, double trigger auto cockers are fine, double trigger spiders are fine. All of those have a secondary mechanical method. But so what we wanted to do was not prohibit innovation with the ICC ruling, but essentially give a set of parameters. And what I use is NASCAR as an example. None of those cars are allowed computer controlled fuel injection. They're all carbureted. Same idea here is everybody has to make do with the same set of rules. So if I wouldn't even really call what is now going on an arms race, I would call it a best execution of allowable technology. Yep. You know, what can we do? Oh, is this legal? Is that not legal? We're in a growth period of it. And I think that customers being so willing to adopt products that we put out, products that our competitors put out, that it's really going to drive innovation. And that's what we need in our sport is somewhere to grow. We need somewhere to grow into. The most exciting thing about paintball for me is the equipment. You know, I've never been very good at paintball, but I love the equipment. I love the the technical side of things. And was one of the early engaging things for me. To see a new genre where paintball can be engaging. This is where we're going to get our next generation of engineers. This is where we're going to get our next generation of business leaders, these intelligent people who say, ooh, I'm trying to get that one half a ball a second better than the next guy. So he's fiddling with a trigger and finds a new way to work. My example would be with Shock Tech and their gunfighter frame. How long was the autococker around? How long was Shock Tech around? And never produced that frame.
Right.
Now, in this new arena with a set of rules, with an audience that's eager to participate, they came up with new technology. They had not produced new technology that I'm aware of since the bomb three-way.
Right.
And now they have this revolutionary frame, and I think that's a product of the reinvention of this market. This rebirth of this market is the demand's there, the interest's there, and we're seeing the equipment follow along. So I don't think it's a detriment at all. I think, if anything, this quote unquote technology race is a positive thing for our sport.
Is a good thing. Yep. Tim, do you have any point on that?
Yeah, as long as it's controlled, right? Again, as Russell said, as long as you're operating within those parameters. I mean, I don't foresee it with the single trigger size that we have for you to exceed on a regular basis. Let's say we took 10 guys, 10 average guys, right? You, Russell, and 7 other guys in the field said, okay, who can shoot more than 8 balls a second with a single trigger gun? I would be surprised, right? Me and Russell helped with the adrenaline contract, right? We've worked with James side by side. We helped create some of the stuff, and he pushes the envelope, and I love him for it. And I've shot one of his guns, and can I shoot a little bit faster? Yes, but I'm shooting like 7 balls a second, right? I'm not a very fast at shooting the trigger, and I just accept that. I go out there and I'm more accuracy instead of volume. Just has to be what it is. I cannot shoot fast, and you give me the best technology in the world, it just is what it is. Now, if it's a double trigger, right, and we're kind of just tripping a solenoid is different, but I feel confident in the rules that we've created. And as Russell said, this arms race is not a bad thing yet. Now, if it got to the point where like this is out of control, then yeah, we'll reevaluate it. But there is a number that I've put together on sales figures that I think the industry's had an influx of cash flow for this. And we're talking millions of dollars that have now come into the industry on this quote unquote arms race that I love to see, right? The Shock Tech frame, as Russell said, I don't know how we didn't make that 25 years ago. It's such a good idea.
Right.
But is it insane? No. Is it faster? Yeah. Is the CVO insane? Maybe. Is it that much faster than an Automag? I don't know if it really is. Right.
Right.
But that's the fun of it, right? We're getting back to playing with the gear and teching it and tuning it and trying to find that fine line. And yeah, Russell hit the nail on the head, saying that there are some guys that say, you know, I'm more attracted to the gear than the game and whatever, and we're hoping to fill that void.
It makes complete sense on everything, because you want to drive innovation, you want to build up companies, you want it to be bigger and better for everyone, and that it just makes sense. One question that I had, Tim, is you were at the first Fight Club 10-man in Chicago. I can't remember if you were playing on a team or were you scrimmaging in the X-Ball format, because I know that they had some X-Ball practices going on.
Yeah, I was supposed to go with the All A's, and we ended up having practice that same weekend. So unfortunately, I missed the first one.
Were you but you were there at
I was in Tampa
for practice. You were at the second one. Okay.
No, I didn't go to the second one either. I was supposed they end up putting both of them on the same weekends as NXL practices. So, you know, I committed to playing with the All-Americans for either one of them, but then practice came up.
Right. It was really impressive for them to win with the GOG enemy. It was one of those things that speaks volumes about the gun. How has that platform been for GOG in talking about all of this mechanical push?
It's been good. I mean, we, growing up forever, there was, one entry-level gun now left. The Spider came and went, but forever it's been Tippmann. They've been this stronghold from a mechanical perspective forever. At that 200 and under, so let's say even 170 and under, and we made the enemy 8 years ago, and it was more targeted for fields and entry level, and we went through some tough growth periods. And oddly enough, we got the best growth out of the classic 10-man stuff, right? Because you had field owners that were buying them to play 10-man stuff, and then all of a sudden they said, "Wow, this is good enough for, the kids in my field." And we got some good traction with it. And it's been an interesting project because entry level is tough, right? I mean, in school, I studied the race to the bottom for a long time. So you keep saying, "Hey, how are we going to cut costs? How are we going to cut costs? We're going to cut costs." And unfortunately, you eventually cut quality.
Mm-hmm.
And we're constantly trying to balance that. I see playing Eclipse with the EMEC, and they're constantly trying to balance that. And it's good though, right? I mean, we're reigniting that fire, saying, "Hey, how can we create a high quality entry level gun for the new players? How can we create a good product for the mechanical players?" So everybody has a better experience. And for like 15 years, we just said, "This is what it is." And I'm not saying it's a bad product, but we just said this is what it is. And we were never just pressing and pressing and pressing. I'm sure Russell can attest in regards to work or anything. It's just always constantly keeping people engaged in what if, and you push and you push and you push, and eventually something good will come out of that. And I'm really happy with the GOG Enemy. I'm really happy with our adaptations of the Shocker CVO. I'm really happy to see Planet Eclipse and their mechanical adaptations, right? It's just more product, more tech for the consumers out there to enjoy.
Yep.
I mean, the very first season of ICC, I wasn't working with Tim yet. I was participating, and we played. I played with the Philadelphia Americans that event, and we won the event with the enemy. And then just to play the rest of the season, I think in some variation or the other, everybody in the factory that season probably, I think we added it all up. I think we played 9 mechanical events. Someone in the company that year with the enemy, and that was the year before we came out with the CBO. We all got together and said, "This format is here to stay." The enemy is, as much as an intro marker for people to get into paintball in general, it's an excellent intro into mechanical because you have a very low investment, but the high performance sells you on what's going on. And I think that's an excellent vehicle for us, as well as Tim mentioned, Planet, where if you can produce a high quality, inexpensive mechanical marker for people to get started with, regardless of it's a rental, if they're getting started with paintball in general, or if they're getting started in this classic format, it's an excellent vehicle to explain why and introduce you what makes a high quality marker versus, a Walmart marker.
Yeah, I mean, and with that said, the first Iron City Classic, I was kind of just figuring out as I go. I was kind of like, okay, what if I do this, what if I do this, and see what people thought and said. And so we only had 18 teams the first year, right? And that's not enough to pay a facility to say, "Hey, shut down your whole operations yet." So Phil at Urban Assault still had rental players coming in, right? And they'd play on a field, we play on a field, and his rental guns are GOG Enemies. And I had there's a group of kids, and they just got done coming off the Woods Field, and they wanted to watch some of the top teams play. So they were going out there watching, and they're all playing with enemies. And these kids that are probably 12 or 13 go, "I have the same gun. I just played that bunker. I think I could do that." And I'm like, you should come back and maybe play the facility a little bit more. And they're like, I really want to. And that was the moment that, no joke, when I said, this is when I think that this classic format, this is when I think that the mechanical stuff has a growth opportunity, because it provides a segue to say, I'm a kid.
Uh-oh.
It's a dramatic pause, but I understand exactly what Tim was saying. And Tim, if you're out there, you're probably just having a issue with your stream. Feel free to jump back in. But I understand exactly, because from a perspective of when I would go out and play, I would see younger players say, "Well, that guy has a $1,500, $2,000 gun. I need to get that to be good." Where you can have world-class players actually go win, be competitive with a platform like the enemy. That's something that's very special. And I'm sure that you would.
And to flesh out Tim's story there, the 2 teams that they were watching were the Philadelphia Americans versus So it was most of Tampa Bay Damage and Houston Heat versus most of Edmonton Impact down on the Hyperpipe field. And these 13-year-old kids are like, yeah, I want to go play with them. Yep, I think I can handle that.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of the light bulb moment is that you realize that if that was a airball field and they were playing at 10 balls a second and they were playing a match, that there's zero chance those 13-year-olds look over and see they want to go give it a shot against Impact.
Right. Absolutely.
Or
That's fantastic. It's fantastic. That whole story is fantastic. Now, I'm sure that Tim will join or rejoin if he can. But what I want to do is I want to give you an opportunity to say anything to the stores or the fields or the players through this about what you're doing at GOG and Luxe to accommodate them during this time.
From switching off the ICC hat and putting on the GOG Shocker Luxe hat.
Yep.
We are still maintaining functionality. I know a lot of paintball manufacturers are soft goods, hard goods, commodities like paint and so forth. We're doing what we can to get through. The important thing to remember, and like I mentioned to you, Brad, before, is that we weren't in bad shape when this COVID thing started. Paintball has been on a growth trajectory. Certainly there's a number of naysayers out there, but every number that I have access to shows me that paintball is growing. Not only just paintball, but extreme sports. We're seeing this trend where my generation, the guys that are making it into their 30s and their late 40s, and they have children now, they're bringing people into the things that they love. They're bringing people into paintball. They're bringing people into motocross. They're bringing people into hockey and very expensive, extreme sports, but they're coming in. You look at the proliferation of things like CrossFit and things like that. Mm-hmm. These experience sports, these experience pastimes, I think are going to be the strongest winners in this whole COVID thing. Mm-hmm. The example I use is going to a movie theater. If you right now you're going to get tired of sitting home watching Netflix and you're going to want to go see a movie in a movie theater. And I think the same thing is going to happen with paintball, is that people have been waiting and waiting and waiting. They're going to be incredibly stoked when ICC rolls around. It'll be our time. And I have been teasing Tim that it's going to be more like a celebration than an event, because we're all going to be coming out of hibernation like a bunch of bears, just stretching out and getting ready to raise some heck. It's one of those things where I am excited for it. And I think paintball will come out on the other side. With Luxe, we're still processing sponsorship applications. Same thing with Shocker. So we're doing what we can to support the teams that are still trying to plan a season. We haven't given up on the season. I know that some people think, it's not going to happen. We're confident it is. Whether it's 3 events, 1 event, we're going to make it happen for the teams that need the support. For the wholesale side of things with stores and so forth, we're still shipping orders daily so that the stores that are doing business either through their online stores or in selective numbers, obviously social distancing is a thing nationwide now, but we're still getting things out the door as we can. It's one of those things. Everybody's working so that we get to the other side of the tunnel together.
Yep. Makes sense. Welcome back, Tim.
Thanks. Yeah, I got booted out and back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we were just touching on essentially the GOG enemy platform, Luxe platform. Now that this COVID thing is hurt, what is the operation status on your end? Do you have anything to contribute to that?
No, I'm sure it sounds like I got the end of Russell's statement, and he's right. I mean, we're doing the best we can to keep product going out the door, to keep filling the stores that have orders going out, to keep helping the teams. And, as we said earlier, everyone's just got to stay positive. Everyone's just got to stay ready. And the day that everything can get started again, I hope there's a floodgate that gets open. I hope the fields are packed. I hope people are buying new equipment. I hope that, paintball just comes back just as strong as ever.
Yes. Do you have anything that you want to promote at all, Tim?
No, I mean, I think we've had a lot of good discussions here, Brad. I appreciate you having us. I mean, the Iron City stuff, I mean, we love talking about. That's our passion, You know, I mean, we love our jobs. I mean, you know, we love working at Luxe, Shocker, Freak Gog. We love all the stuff we do. We believe in all the products and the people that we have behind us. You know, hopefully we see everybody at the Iron City. Hopefully everybody's out there playing paintball and having fun.
Perfect. Well, I wanted to thank both of you for taking your time out today after work to talk about this. Feel free if I know that there's going to be other programs coming down the pipe where I might ask both of you to join in again. But if there's anything that I can do for you, you feel free to let me know, please.
No, thank you, Brad. Honestly, I talk to you all the time. I appreciate all the support, man. I appreciate your belief in what we're doing. I appreciate the belief in just the classic format, and your love for paintball, man. More power to you, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. Have a good night. And Russell, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
See you, Brad.
Thank you. Well, that was great. A little bit of a conversation with Tim and Russell, both great guys, completely fiercely passionate about the ICC and the classic movement, as well as being airball players, and they just love the game as much as we do. So I encourage you all, contact your local fields, the fields that you go to, give them words of encouragement. Say, as soon as we can come out and play, we're going to come out and play. I see that there's some fields around the country that are operating. So please, if you guys have something that you can help other fields with, that would be great. Let's all talk about positive paintball and doing wonderful things for the sport, because we have to be here for each other. Thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Have a wonderful